Hello, Flower family. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Pam, and I love all things art making, specifically heavy texture paint, where I use pastry bags and piping tips to create my art. Today, I'd like to take you along as I prepare for some upcoming art markets. These behind-the-scenes clips will span over several weeks. You'll get to see how I create a variety of heavy texture paintings, what supplies I use, and some tips and tricks I've picked up along the way, including a few affordable alternatives. I hope you decide to stick around, maybe even work alongside me in your own creative space. Whether you're an artist yourself or just love watching the creative process unfold, there's something here for you. So let's dive in and get inspired together. I came across some wooden boxes and I thought it would be a nice addition to the things that I already have in my collection as far as paintings and magnets and keychains. So I decided that I would turn these into some fun jewelry boxes. I'm using GAC 100 as a sealant, which I've done in the previous clips, and now that has dried, I'm using the Liquitex Clear Gesso. If you're curious on why I'm using the GAC 100, it's usually used as a sealant for any raw surfaces like wood to prevent any staining from any of the acrylic paint that I use. I know that I've said this in previous videos, but I really dislike prepping surfaces. And I think the reason why I dislike it so much is because when I'm inspired and I'm in that creative state, I want to get started. I don't want to have to wait for sealing the canvas, adding the gesso, sanding it, or anything like that. So what I've learned is that if I prep things ahead of time, knowing that I'll need it, especially the ones that are popular, the canvas sizes that are popular, like my 5x7s, then this way it's ready to go and I'm less likely annoyed by the process. So if you're anything like me, prep your surfaces ahead of time. This way they are waiting for you and you not waiting for it. Here I am prepping some paint for an upcoming project, and I really like using these Tupperware containers. I got this specific one from the Dollar Tree, and usually you can get 3 of them for $1.25, which I think is a pretty good deal. I'm using Gaffrey's Clear Heavy Texture Gel Medium, and this is my go-to in my own art practice. I have a video that I've created that I will link below that does a comparison between Gaffrey and Golden, and I go into a little bit more detail on how to mix the paints and then also what type of acrylic paint that you can mix into these gel mediums. So if you're interested, please check that out. Because these paints are so thick in texture, I really love using a squeegee to help get any of that remaining paint out of the bag. Here's another tip that I like to use, especially if it's a paint color that I use often. Instead of mixing the color once and using it right away, I like creating a larger batch of that specific color, especially since I know that I will be creating many flowers in that one color. If you're not familiar with using a pastry bag or how to assemble one, I'm going to go through that right now. This is a coupler, so that white little piece allows you to change out your piping tips, which is very nice. I use a pair of scissors to score on the bag. This way it's easy to cut and place the coupler through the opening. If you are someone that is just getting started on your journey and don't want to purchase specific pastry bags, I've known artists to actually use Ziploc bags. I've not tried that personally, but I'm sure that you could probably use a Ziploc bag. It might not be as durable, but it's worth a shot to try. Especially if you're just starting out on your journey and you don't want to purchase any extra supplies. Now that my piping tip is in place, I'm going to start adding in the paint colors of my choice. I'm going to start lining one of the seams with some white heavy texture paint from Gaffrey. And then once that is done, I will add in the color that I just mixed previously. Because I like to have a variety of items at my art markets and festivals, I'll include things like keychains and magnets. I'm adhering the keychain onto the flower nail with something called sticky tack. It's a really tacky material usually used in offices to put something onto a wall without ruining the wall surface. And I like to use it because I'm not getting anything on my flower nail, I'm not getting anything on the surface of my keychain, and I find that it works really well and it's reusable. Using the piping bag that we previously prepped, I'm creating these mini bluebonnets. These flowers are popular where I live, which is Texas, and I noticed that they were also popular in my booth. A lot of customers were drawn to them. So that's why I decided to prep a lot of that color because I know that I'll be using it in the next few weeks. Now that the wooden boxes have completely dried from the GAC 100 and the clear gesso, I'm going to go ahead and add some paint to the interior just to make it look a little nicer. To keep it simplistic, I'm just using a white acrylic paint. Now that the interior of all the boxes have been painted, I'm going to set that aside to dry, and I'm going to focus on some other items and ideas that I have for my upcoming art markets. Okay, so right here I'm using some leftover paint from a previous project. I didn't want it to go to waste, and honestly, as soon as I saw the color again, I knew it would be perfect for this little magnet idea I've been playing with. For this part, I'm using a plastic sheet called Duralar. It's a type of plastic that comes in a pack, and I just cut it down to whatever size I need. It really works well for this kind of work. It's smooth and reusable and sturdy enough to hold anything that I pipe onto it. But honestly, you don't have to use Duralar. If you're just experimenting or want to recycle what you've got at home, things like cottage cheese lids or other leftover plastic food lids work great too. All right, I'm not sure if you figured it out by now, but I'm starting on a mini blueberry pie. And I'm so excited about this one. I've had this idea in my head for a while, and that leftover paint color was just too perfect for the blueberries. I'm building it up little by little, starting with the blueberries, and then I'll add that crust detail later. It's one of those pieces that just makes me smile when I'm working on it. It's tiny and fun and kind of nostalgic. Definitely hoping that it brings some cozy feelings to someone at the art market later. So in this part of the process, I'm switching gears a little bit and starting on something new. I had such a good time creating that mini blueberry pie, and I was so happy with how it turned out. I decided to create a cherry pie. So kind of going on that whole bakery feel, I was thinking that it would be a great addition to add to my markets. I think the cherry pie has such a bold, playful energy compared to the blueberry pie. The red is so vibrant and it adds this pop of color, and I'm really hoping my customers love it as much as I do. What I love most about these mini food pieces is that each one tells their own little story. They're tiny, but they're packed with personality, and I can't wait to have a whole bunch displayed at my markets. All right, now we're moving on to something new, which I know that you probably have noticed a theme here in this video, but I like to work on several things at once. This allows it to dry, and then I'm not waiting around for a lot of things. But I've said this before, I love having a variety of pieces for my art markets, and I think keychains are a fun and functional way to share my art. Right now, you can see that I'm completing up one of my favorite flowers, which is a daisy. They're just so simple and cute and cheerful. Moving right along, I decided to stick with a food theme, and I'm starting to add the details to this jewelry box to turn it into a fake cake. I find this part so satisfying, and I hope you do as well. I love transforming everyday objects into something totally unexpected and playful. This box is going to look like a little frosted cake when it's done, and it's one of my favorite types of projects because it blends function with that sweet, whimsical bakery look that I've been playing with lately. Right now, I'm adding all those tiny decorative touches, which happens to be my most favorite part. Adding the sprinkles and piping on the frosting just like I would on a real cake, but instead with paint. So, I was definitely on a bit of a fake cake kick. Try saying that 3 times fast. And I just couldn't stop. So I decided to create some smaller versions using these 3 by 3 wooden panels. I think they're the perfect little size, just enough space to have fun with the frosting details and the decorations without being too overwhelming. Plus, they make the cutest little display pieces, maybe in the kitchen, on a nightstand, a coffee table, wherever your heart desires. As you can see, I'm having so much fun treating each one like its own mini dessert. Same look as the larger cake box, just bite-sized. Now that the mini cherry and blueberry pies have fully dried, it's time for the finishing touch, which is adding the magnets on the back of each piece. This is the part that turns them from tiny art pieces into something functional and fun. The glue that I'm using to adhere these magnets onto each piece is just the Gaffrey Clear Gel Medium. I love that I'm able to use this gel medium to create my pieces as well as use it as an adhesive. I really love this final step in the art making process because it means they're ready to head to the art market table and hopefully off to someone's home where they'll bring a little joy every time they're spotted. It's the small details that really complete the process and make these pieces feel special. Here's a final look of one of the fake cake boxes where I get to add my favorite part, which is the whipped topping and the cherry. The daisy keychains have dried beautifully, and to complete the look, I'm adding these adorable little ladybugs. It's such a small touch, but it really brings the whole piece to life. I love adding little surprises like this, those tiny extra details that make people smile when they notice them. Okay, we're moving on to something new now. I'm going to walk you through how I assemble one of my heavy textured floral bouquet paintings. The flowers that you see here were actually created for other bouquets. And what I like to do is I usually will pipe more than one of a particular flower. This way, if there's anything wrong with it or it doesn't turn out right, I'll have plenty to use. And if there are ever leftovers, I will use them for new bouquets. For any flowers that don't make the cut, I usually turn them into magnets. This way nothing goes to waste. Once I've picked out the flowers for a specific bouquet, I really enjoy the arranging process. It's kind of like building a puzzle, figuring out the composition, the balance, and how each flower plays off the others. As you can see, I lay these flowers out on the canvas or wooden panel, whatever I'm using, and take my time moving things around until it feels just right. It's one of my most favorite parts of the process, seeing the bouquet come together before I secure everything down. Once I'm happy with the arrangement, I start adhering the flowers onto the wooden panel using the same clear, heavy texture gel medium I used to create them. I love that I can use the same material for both the sculpting and securing. It keeps everything cohesive and it holds the flowers in place really well once it dries. I just apply a little bit to the back of each piece and press it gently onto the wooden panel. It's a bit of a slow, careful process, but it's always worth it to see the bouquet really start to come to life as everything finds its place. After everything is adhered and in place, I'll go in and start piping the leaves. I love how the greenery ties everything together. It fills in the gaps and adds that natural finished look to the bouquet. Once that's done, I'll start piping the center of the flowers. if they need a little extra detail or texture. Sometimes they just need that final touch to really bring them to life. The last piece I'm working on for this session is a blue bonnet bouquet, and I'm really excited about it. Normally I'll pipe each flower individually onto Duralar, let them dry, and then assemble everything onto either a canvas or a wooden panel. But for this one, I'm switching things up and piping the bluebonnets directly onto the wooden panel. I feel like this approach works better for these specific flowers. The shape, the layering, and the way they grow just lends itself to building them upright on the surface. It lets me create in a more natural flowing composition, almost like they're growing straight out of the panel. And that's it for today's studio session. Thank you so much for hanging out with me while I prepped for my upcoming art markets. If you're interested in any of the supplies that I use, like the piping tools or the Duralar sheets, I've linked everything in my Amazon storefront below. I do earn a small commission from anything you purchase through those links, so thank you so much for supporting my work. I really hope this video inspired you to create something of your own, whether it's a mini food piece, a floral painting, or just playing around with texture and color. Sometimes all it takes is a little spark to get started. And don't forget to come back for the next video. I'll be bringing you along for a day at the art markets so you can see how everything comes together. So I hope you'll join me because I can't wait to share it with you. Until next time, bye!